Hello students, welcome all of you in this online session. This online session is conducted by Raj Shikshan Samstha's Sadguru Gadge Maharaj College Karad under the Rose project. Myself, Mrs. Jadge SR, conducting here the second lecture of the topic Origin and Evolution of Life. So, in the first lecture, we have completed the different theories of origin of life and different steps which are involved in the chemical evolution of life. And the last point we have seen in previous lecture, that is Urey and Miller's experiment. Now, in this today's second lecture, we are going to see the different points, such as the first point, that is known as the RNA world hypothesis. The second point of our discussion is the organic evolution, which was put forth by Charles Darwin. The different principles of this organic evolution we have to study. Then theory of germplasm, next theory, that is theory of origin of acquired characters, and lastly we have to see the mutation theory. So these are the different points that we have to discuss in today's lecture, that RNA world hypothesis, organic evolution, its principles, theory of germplasm, theory of origin of acquired characters, and mutation theory. So let us start our first point of this today's lecture, that is RNA world hypothesis. According to this hypothesis, here this hypothesis was put forth by Sidney Altman and Thomas Sek independently. So here in 1980, Sidney Altman and Thomas Sek independently found that the RNAs are acting as a biocatalyst. Means here RNAs are responsible for carrying different chemical reactions in the living organisms, and hence the hypothesis was put forth by the Sidney Altman and Thomas Sek, that is the living things were produced with the help of these RNAs, or RNAs are responsible for production of these living things. So these catalytic RNAs are also called as here ribozymes, because these RNAs are acting as enzymes, and therefore these are known as the catalytic RNAs, and hence the name given here is the ribozymes. Okay, and this discovery provided important support for RNA world hypothesis, and the RNA acting as a catalyst, this discovery is important for the RNA world hypothesis, and this hypothesis suggests that early life must have been based exclusively on the nucleic acids and most probably the RNA. Means here, according to this hypothesis, the early life which was originated on this earth, that is based on this exclusively nucleic acids, that is most probably RNA. That means from RNA the early life on this earth was produced. That hypothesis is given here in this RNA world hypothesis. Let us see in the diagrammatic representation how this RNA world hypothesis, that we can see here in the diagram. So this is the diagrammatic representation of this RNA world hypothesis. You can see here, this is the first step, that RNA is self-replicating via ribozymes. Self-replication means they are producing its own copy, that is known as the self-replication, and here the RNA molecules are self-replicating by using the ribozymes, and so here this is the original copy and this is the its duplicate copy that is formed, and these RNA forms from inorganic sources, you can see here, and this RNA is catalyzing the protein synthesis reaction. So the RNA is responsible for protein synthesis, and the membrane formation changes the internal chemistry allowing the new functionality, and when the RNA is responsible for this protein synthesis, the membrane formation surrounding the cell, it changes the internal chemistry allowing the new functionality. So here, due to this RNA catalysis or the catalyzation of this RNA into the protein synthesis, the functionality is developed newly in the cells, and afterwards here DNA is becoming the master template. First of all, RNA is the important molecule which is acting as the catalyzing agent for the different reactions. Afterwards, the DNA is becoming the master molecule. DNA means deoxyribose nucleic acid, and this DNA is becoming master template in all the living organisms except some viruses, and this DNA is coding the different RNA. So here RNA codes both DNA and protein. This hypothesis was given in this RNA world hypothesis, and the protein catalyzes the cellular activities. And finally, from this RNA, both DNA and proteins are coded, and from that proteins are responsible for catalyzing the cellular activities, and hence here RNA is known as the main important molecule from which the early life was originated. It is given by this Altman and Sek scientist. Okay, so this is a very short point, RNA world hypothesis. Now the next point of our discussion, that is known as the organic evolution. This is a very important theory regarding the origin of earth and how the life originated on this earth. So what is mean by organic evolution? The definition of this organic evolution we have to see first. So here organic evolution can be defined as a slow, gradual, continuous and irreversible changes through which present day complex forms have descended from their simple pre-existing forms of the past. So what is mean by here organic evolution? In during this organic evolution, what happens, you see here, there is a slow, gradual, continuous and irreversible changes are occurring. Means the changes are not reversible. Permanent changes we can see, and these changes are occurring very slowly, gradually and continuously. And due to this irreversible changes, what happens, from the simple pre-existing forms which are present in the past, from that simple pre-existing forms of the past, present day complex forms have descended. Means at the primitive earth or during the early development of the earth, the simple pre-existing early life or the simple pre-existing living organisms were present at the past, and from that simple pre-existing from slowly, gradually, continuously and irreversibly some changes are occurring in those organisms, and they are converted into present day complex forms. This is the definition of this organic evolution, and this theory of organic evolution was put forth by the Charles Darwin. So in this topic you have to remember the different theories and the scientists who discovered that theories. That is important for the examination point of view. So here the theory of organic evolution was put forth by the Charles Darwin. Okay, the Charles Darwin is a naturalist. He traveled extensively the world over from 27th December 1831 to October 1836 and returned to the England. So Charles Darwin is the naturalist and he traveled all over the world about 5 to 6 years, and then he returned to the England, and after returning he collected the different information from all over the world, and based on his collections of living and fossil material he published a book that is known as the Origin of Species by Natural Selection in 1859. So the Charles Darwin was traveled all over the world about 5 to 6 years, and the information was collected by this Charles Darwin, and from his collections of living material as well as fossil material he published the book that is known as the Origin of Species by Natural Selection, and the book is published in 1859. So this is the work done by this Charles Darwin, and according to his work or according to his information collected by the from the all over the world, he postulates or he given some principles, and those principles are known as here principles of the Darwin's theory of organic evolution by natural selection. So by on the work of this Darwin's, the principles were given on this Darwin's theory. The first principle, that is known as the overproduction or prodigality of nature. Second principle, that is known as the struggle for existence. The third principle, but we have to see, but in the struggle for existence there are again three types. The first type, it is known as the intraspecific struggle. The second type, it is known as the interspecific struggle. The third type, it is known as the environmental struggle. So in the struggle of existence we can observe these three types of struggle. This is the second principle. Then third principle, that is known as the organic variation. Fourth principle, survival of the fittest or natural selection. Then fifth, origin of new species, that is known as the speciation. So here accordingly, on the work of this or on the information which was collected by the Darwin, the 5 principles are there. One by one we have to discuss these principles. So the first principle here, overproduction or enormous fertility, or it is also called as a prodigality of production. What does it mean here? Every living organism has a great potential for the reproduction. So every organism which is present on this earth, that every living organism has a great ability or a great potential for the reproduction, and any population tend to increase in the geometrical proportion. So every organism which is present on this earth, this population of any organism, it is increasing in the geometrical proportion. This is the first basic principle, that is known as the overproduction. But here the second principle we have to see, struggle for existence. Though overproduction occurs in the population of any organism, all the individuals are not surviving up to the maturity, because there is a struggle for existence. Means suppose the number of organisms were developed in some population, and suppose 1000 young ones are produced by a single organism. At that time all that 1000 organisms are not surviving up to the maturity, because those 1000 organisms are struggling for the existence, and therefore the second principle was given here by this Darwin's theory, that is struggle for existence. So here the overproduction leads to a competition for getting requirements of life. So when there is a overproduction in any living organism, there is a competition in between those individuals to get the basic requirement of the life, and here this competition is called as the struggle for existence, for food or for a space or to escape from enemies. So here the struggle or the competition is for different purposes. There is a competition for getting the food, there is a competition to getting a space, or there is a competition to escape from enemies. So there are different types of struggles for the existence we can observe in the different organisms which were developed. And here this struggle for existence, it is of 3 types. The first type, it is known as the intraspecific struggle. Here the struggle is occurring in between the same species, that is known as the intraspecific. This word you have to remember. Intraspecific means the struggle or the competition is taking place in between the individuals of the same species. For example, here you can see in between the deer and deer, to get the food material, to acquire the space or to escape from the enemies, the deer and deer both are of the same species, they are showing struggle or they are showing competition between each other. This is the first type of struggle. Okay, the second here, interspecific struggle. Here the struggle or competition is taking place in between the individuals of the different species. So interspecific word is for the individuals of the different species which are living together. That point you have to remember. For example, here deer and zebra, the food material or the feeding habit is the same in between these two species, and here in between these two different species, to get the food material or to acquire the space, the struggle or competition we can observe, that is known as the interspecific struggle. And the third type of struggle, that is known as the environmental struggle. That means every living organism is struggling or it is competing against the different environmental factors. For example, here it is in between the all living forms and adverse environmental conditions. For example, you can see here the natural calamities like extreme heat or cold, drought conditions, storms, earthquakes, and volcanic activities. So the living organisms which are living on this earth, they are showing the competition or the struggle against the environmental factors. Here the natural calamities like extreme heat condition, that is extreme temperature, or extreme low temperature, that is cold condition, or there may be drought conditions, storm conditions, there may be earthquakes occurring on the earth, there may be volcanic activities which were occurring on the earth. So here these different organisms are struggling against these environmental factors. So though the overproduction is occurring in every individual, due to this struggle that may be intraspecific or interspecific or environmental, the organisms are not growing up to the maturity. This is known as the struggle for existence. Then the third principle here, that is organic variation. Here what happens, to survive in that particular environmental condition or to show the best competition in between the same species or different species, the organisms are developing some variations to withstand with this competition. So here the variations in the organisms are occurring in the morphology, physiology, nutrition, habits and behavioral patterns, etc. So to survive the organisms in that particular region or in that particular part on this earth, these organisms are showing variations, and these variations are occurring in the morphology of the organism or physiology of the organism, then nutrition, that means the feeding habits or food habits, then the living habitat and behavioral pattern, etc. And these variations are serving as a raw material for the evolution. So when the different variations are occurring in these organisms, these variations are here used for the evolution. So the organisms living in a particular habitat are showing some different variant characteristics, and these variant characteristics are responsible for evolution. This is the third principle given by this Charles Darwin, that is organic variation, and these variations are playing important role in the evolution. Due to the variations developed in these organisms, the process of evolution is getting started from the past life up to the present life. Okay. Then the fourth principle, that is the survival of the fittest, or it is also called as the natural selection. So here we can see, during the struggle for existence in between the organisms, the favorable variations are selected by the nature. This is the very important characteristic feature. That means the organisms are showing different variations in their body, and some variations are favorable, that means useful, and there may be some variations are developed that are unfavorable or that are unuseful. So while uh, evolution, what happens here, the struggle for existence is taking place in the organisms, and here the survival of that organism is given, or it is survival of that organism is selected by the nature, and here the nature is selecting favorable variations, means the organisms which are showing favorable variations are selected by the nature, and the organisms which are having unfavorable variations or unuseful variations, those are eliminated. Okay. And according to Darwin, here the principle by which useful variations are preserved by nature, that is known as the natural selection. That means here the nature plays an important role during the selection of these organisms or the survival of the fittest. That concept is given by here by the Darwin, that the principle by which useful variations preserved by the nature, that is known as the natural selection, and H. Spencer named this process as the survival of the fittest. That means the organism is having some favorable variations or the favorable characteristic features. Those characteristic features are selected by the nature, and those individuals are survived because they are survival of the fittest. Okay. And next here the fifth and last principle, that is the origin of new species. Here, as the favorable variations are transmitted from generation to generation, successive generations become better adapted to the environment. So during the natural selection, here the favorable variations are selected by the nature, and these favorable variations are transmitted from generation to generation, and accordingly here different successive generations become better adapted to the environment, and gradually these adaptations with few new modifications become fixed in the life cycle, and finally it is giving rise to a new species. So in the original species, some favorable variations are occurring, and these favorable variations are transmitted from generation to generation, and gradually after some years these new variations and adaptations are becoming fixed in that life cycle of organism, and from original species there will be formation of the new species, that is known as the speciation. And here at this fifth principle, the from the original species, new origin species we can observe. Okay, so this is all about the principles of this Darwin's theory of organic evolution. And here the examples or the evidences of the Darwinism, the examples we have to see. The first example or the evidence that evolution of long-necked giraffe, the 5 principles was given by this Darwin, that is known as the Darwinism. And here according to this Darwinism, different evidences we can observe. From that, the first evidence is the evolution of long-necked giraffe. The second evidence is the evolution of black colored peppered moths. And the third evidence is the DDT resistance in mosquitoes. All these organisms were developed according to the Darwinism, that according to the principle which was given by the Charles Darwin. So these are the 3 evidences that you have to remember for the examination point of view. The first evidence is the evolution of long-necked giraffe, second evolution of the black colored peppered moths, and third is the DDT resistance in the mosquitoes. Okay, so this is the evidences of Darwinism. Now there are some drawbacks or the objection to the Darwinism. That means here the all principles of Darwinism are not selected by all the scientists or not accepted by the scientists, because there are some drawbacks or objections to this Darwin's theory of natural selection or organic evolution. The first drawback here is the minute fluctuating variation are not heritable and not part of the evolution. As the Darwin has told that the favorable variations are herited and it is a part of evolution, but here minute fluctuating variation are not heritable. That point is noticed, and therefore this is the drawback, because this minute fluctuating variation is not inheritable and it is not a part of evolution. Second drawback here he considered as the somatic and germinal variations are heritable, but from this only germinal variations are heritable, somatic variations are not inheritable. So this is the drawback. Third drawback, no explanation of the arrival of the fittest. Darwin said that survival of the fittest, he given the principle that survival of the fittest, but there will be no explanation. There was no explanation about the arrival of the fittest. Some organisms are arriving and they are fit to survive in that particular environmental condition. So this arrival of the fittest is not explained by this Darwinism. He did not explain the cause, origin, and inheritance of variations of and of vestigial organs, and nor he could explain the extinction of species. So the different explanations regarding these points was not given by the Darwin, that he did not explain the cause, origin, and inheritance of variation. That means how the inheritance of variation is taking place, how the variations are caused, how the origin of variations is taking place, that was not explained by the Darwin. The role of vestigial organs is also not explained, and why the extinction of species is occurred on this earth, that was also not explained by this Darwinism, and hence these are the drawbacks and objections to the Darwinism, and therefore this natural selection theory or organic evolution theory is not accepted. At some extent it is true, but at final explanation is not given by this Darwinism. Hence another theory was here raised. The next theory, that is known as the germplasm. This theory of germplasm was put forth by German biologist, that is August Weismann. So you have to remember the name of the theory of germplasm, and it was given by here August Weismann. Okay, and according to this theory, what he concluded? He concluded that variations produced in somatic cells that is known as the somatoplasm, are not inherited. That means the somatic variations or the variations which are produced in the somatic cells, that is body cells, are not inherited, while the variations produced in the germ cells, that is germplasm, are inherited to the next generation. So according to the August Weismann, somatic cells variations are not inherited, but the germ cells variation, that is germplasm, is inherited to the next generation, and therefore the name of theory given here is the theory of germplasm. Okay, this is a very short theory. Another one short theory, that is known as the theory of origin of acquired characters. So this theory is given by the Lamarck in 1809, published this theory also known as the Lamarckism. So the theory of origin of acquired characters was given by the Lamarck, and according to this theory, he concluded that if an organism changes during life in order to adapt to its environment, those changes are passed on to the offspring. So according to this theory of origin of acquired characters, what he conclude that if suppose one organism is there and this organism is changing some characteristics during its life in order to adapt to its environment, that means suppose one organism is living in a particular environmental condition, and to live in that particular environmental condition some characters are adapted to this organism, and those adapted characteristics, those acquired characteristics, are then passed to its offspring. This is the statement of this theory, that is theory of origin of acquired characteristics, that you have to remember. And scientist who given this theory of origin of acquired characteristic, that is known as the Lamarck. Okay, now the next theory, that is the mutation theory. Here this theory was proposed by Hugo de Vries in 1901. So you have to remember the mutation theory was proposed by Hugo de Vries, and here he proposed this theory that is based on his observations on 7 generations of the plant. He studied one plant that is known as the evening primrose. The name of that plant, botanical name, that is Oenothera lamarckiana. So he studied the 7 generation of this plant, evening primrose, or the name of the plant is Oenothera lamarckiana, and after observing the 7 generations of this plant, he concluded the mutation theory, and he found that some of the offspring show appearance of sudden or spontaneous variation clearly different from the phenotypic expression of the parent. So after observing the 7 generation, what he found that some offsprings of these plants are showing sudden and spontaneous variation which are different from the phenotypic expression of the parent, and he concluded that these sudden variations were called as the mutations, or these are also called as the discontinuous variations. So here the sudden or spontaneous variations are here known as the mutations or discontinuous variations, and hence the name of theory is given here, mutation theory. He noted that these sudden changes are inheritable and proposed the mutation theory. So these sudden variations or the sudden changes, that is mutations, are inheritable, means they are transmitted from one generation to other generation, and accordingly the name is given here mutation theory. Okay, what are the main features of this mutation theory? The first feature here, mutations are large, sudden and discontinuous variations. Second, these changes are inheritable, that means they are transmitted from one generation to other generation. Then third, mutations provide raw material for organic evolution. So during the course of evolution, the different materials or the different concepts are given here, and from that one concept is the mutation, and according to this theory of evolution, mutations are responsible for the organic evolution, and therefore these mutations are known as here raw material. These mutations may be useful or harmful. So the mutations which were occurred in these organisms, some organisms are showing useful mutations, some organisms are showing harmful mutations, and here the useful mutations are selected by the nature. So during the course of evolution, the organisms which are showing useful mutations, those were selected by the nature, and harmful mutations are not selected by the nature. Okay, so harmful mutation may persist or get eliminated by the nature. So during the course of evolution, these harmful mutations are getting eliminated by the nature. The next point here, according to Darwin, variations are small and directional, whereas mutations are large, sudden, random, and directionless. These both points you have to remember for the examination point of view. As just we have seen, the Darwin is giving 5 principles, and from that the organic variations were produced according to Darwin. These variations are small and directional. But here, according to Hugo de Vries, here mutations are occurring in the organisms, and these mutations are large, they are happening suddenly, they are happening randomly, and these are directionless. So, both the views of this Darwin and Hugo de Vries is opposite to each other. Darwin said that variations are small and directional, but Hugo de Vries says that mutation is the large and random and it is directionless. Okay, and when a single step large mutation is occurring, it is known as the saltation. This term also you have to remember. When a single step mutation is occurring and it is a large mutation, it is known as the saltation. Okay, now the last point of this lecture, that is the objections of this mutation theory. Though the mutation theory was put forth by Hugo de Vries, it is also not accepted by the scientists because there may be some objections. What are those objections here? The large and discontinuous variation observed by Hugo de Vries were actually due to chromosomal aberrations, and these were gene mutations usually bring about the minor changes. So, according to Hugo de Vries, here mutations are occurring and these are large and discontinuous variation, but actually this discontinuous large variation is due to chromosomal aberration. That means there will be changes in the chromosomal structure, and gene mutations where bring about the minor changes. So the chromosomal aberrations are responsible here. Gene mutations are not responsible for these changes because the gene mutations are occurring, bringing about the minor changes, and these minor changes are not responsible for evolution, and therefore the mutation theory is objected because the gene mutations are not responsible for evolution. Okay, next here, rate of mutation is very slow as compared to the requirement of evolution. So here the mutation rate is very slow and the requirement of evolution is very high, and therefore this is also objected here, that the mutation is not a whole support in the evolution process. Okay, so here in this way, in this lecture we have completed the first point, that is RNA world hypothesis, then Darwin's theory of organic evolution and its principles, then theory of germplasm, theory of acquired characteristics, and lastly mutation theory. Okay, so thank you for watching this lecture. The next remaining points we have to see in the next lecture. Till then, thank you.